Deep in the rugged hills of West Virginia, there's a valley so isolated that maps barely acknowledge its existence. Locals whisper of a family that has never been officially recorded, no birth certificates, no school records, no legal trace of their children. But in this forgotten pocket of Appalachia, a baby was born, silent, unregistered, and hidden from the outside world. How can a child simply exist without leaving a mark on history? And why does everyone in the town avoid speaking about them? Some say the family is cursed, others insist they're inbred, carrying secrets too dark to ever surface. Tonight, we dive into the story of this baby, this family, and the terrifying truths that nobody in West Virginia dares to acknowledge. Prepare yourself, because what you're about to hear isn't just a story, it's a chilling reality. West Virginia's mountains are home to some of the most remote and forgotten communities in America. In these hollows, time seems to move differently, and outsiders rarely wander in. The family at the center of our story lived in one such hollow, a place locals referred to only in hushed tones as the Valley. No road signs marked its entrance, and the few who had ventured close reported a strange silence that hung over the land like a shroud. The family had been there for generations, their roots so entwined that bloodlines became dangerously close, siblings marrying cousins, cousins marrying each other, until outsiders had long stopped counting the connections. Over the years, rumors of inbred children, missing persons, and strange rituals circulated, whispered in the nearby towns like a warning. But there was never proof, only the occasional fleeting sighting of children who seemed different. Then, in one of the oldest cabins, a baby was born, without records, without anyone noticing. No doctor, no midwife, no paper trail. It was as if the child materialized in the world silently, destined to remain invisible. Neighbors spoke of hearing faint cries in the night, shadows moving behind the curtains, and a feeling of eyes watching from the woods. Attempts to investigate the family had often ended abruptly. The family never allowed outsiders inside, and sometimes those who tried to pry too closely disappeared. The valley itself seemed protective, shielding its darkest secret from the prying eyes of the outside world. This wasn't merely a story about a baby. It was a tale of isolation, secrecy, and a web of generations bound together in a way that defied law, morality, and sanity. Every detail hinted at a darkness that only grew heavier with time, leaving an unmistakable question hanging in the air. How does a family survive completely off the grid, leaving no trace? And what are they hiding from the world beyond their mountains? The first incident that drew real attention to the family happened on a bitterly cold November night. A hiker passing through the outskirts of the valley reported seeing flickering candlelight in one of the oldest cabins, though no one should have been home. Curious and uneasy, he approached, catching glimpses of a small child through the windows, a baby with features unsettlingly odd, eyes too large for its face, movements stiff and jerky, like something that shouldn't exist. When he tried to get closer, the cabin's door creaked open, revealing a figure he would never forget. A pale, hollow-eyed man who stared at him with a gaze that seemed to pierce his very soul. He ran, but not before hearing a chilling, high-pitched wail that echoed through the forest, a sound no ordinary child could make. The hiker's account was dismissed by locals as a hallucination, yet it coincided with the sudden disappearance of 2 children from a nearby town days later. Rumors swirled. The family had taken in the children, keeping them hidden from authorities, adding them to the tangled web of inbreeding and secrecy. Every subsequent attempt to investigate the cabin ended in frustration. Dogs refused to enter the property, compasses spun wildly, and even helicopters reported interference when scanning the area. Those who dared to observe the family from a distance noted the odd patterns of movement, children playing in circles, adults staring blankly from windows for hours, and faint, whispering voices at night that sounded like they were chanting in an unrecognizable language. The valley seemed to exist outside the reach of ordinary life, a place where the rules of society didn't apply. And at the heart of it all was the baby, an enigma that had no birth records, no identity, yet commanded an eerie presence that even seasoned law enforcement couldn't ignore. It was here that the first UN, the family that called this hidden valley home, was unlike any other. Over generations, their isolation had created a twisted bloodline, features strangely similar across adults and children alike, a genetic echo of generations of inbreeding. Their skin was pale from lack of sunlight, eyes too wide and unnerving, expressions often blank or contorted in subtle, unnatural ways. The patriarch, known only as Elias, had ruled the family with a cold, unyielding authority, his presence enough to silence even the boldest outsiders. His wife, Miriam, rarely spoke, but watched everything with a calculating intensity, her hands constantly wringing as if weaving invisible threads of control. The children, from the eldest to the newborn, with no records, moved in eerie synchrony, almost as if guided by a single, sinister consciousness. Local lore suggested that the family had been hiding for decades, cultivating a system of secrecy so airtight that even law enforcement had failed to penetrate it. Stories from old neighbors painted a picture of ritualistic behavior. Children kept isolated, unusual markings on doors and walls, and a network of underground tunnels beneath the cabins where the family supposedly conducted mysterious ceremonies. Whispers spoke of people vanishing, their absence never questioned, because fear of the family's wrath kept everyone silent. In the valley, outsiders were viewed as threats, and the family's methods of intimidation were subtle yet effective. Glimpses of pale faces at windows, sudden movements in the woods, and the haunting sound of a child crying in the night. The baby, the newest addition to this bloodline, was more than just a child. It was the next link in a chain of secrets, an embodiment of the family's twisted legacy. Every glance at the baby hinted at something profoundly unsettling, an intelligence beyond its age, a presence that seemed to absorb the valley's darkness and amplify it. This family wasn't just surviving, they were controlling, shaping, and feeding off the very fear they inspired. To understand the valley, one had to understand them, but doing so came at the risk of becoming part of their story forever. A small investigative team, drawn by whispers of the valley's dark secrets, decided to venture into the remote hollow. Equipped with flashlights, cameras, and a sense of determination, they pushed through the dense forest, following a narrow, overgrown path that led to the family's compound. From the moment they stepped inside the boundary of the property, the air changed, thicker, colder, charged with a sense of quiet malice. The first thing they noticed were the signs of meticulous concealment. Paths erased of footprints, no trace of trash or daily life, and an almost ritualistic organization of cabins and sheds that seemed designed to confuse outsiders. As they crept closer to the main cabin, a soft, high-pitched wailing floated through the air, sending chills down their spines. Inside, the walls were covered in faded drawings and strange symbols, markings that looked like both childish doodles and ritualistic sigils. Every corner of the cabin hinted at a hidden order, a history carefully curated to remain invisible to outsiders. In the back room, they discovered something more disturbing, a collection of old journals and faded photographs documenting the family's lineage. Each entry chronicled births, disappearances, and secretive unions, revealing generations of inbreeding and concealment. The baby with no records was mentioned repeatedly, described in chilling terms that hinted at an almost supernatural awareness and uncanny physical traits. As the team delved deeper, they found a hidden staircase leading to a basement lined with cages and crude cradles, some occupied by infants, some by older children with expressions too blank and too similar to the adults. The discovery painted a horrifying picture. This was not merely a family in hiding. It was a meticulously controlled ecosystem of secrecy, where every life, especially that of the newborn, was a tool, a pawn, in a decades-long plan of isolation and manipulation. The investigators began to feel watched, their nerves unraveling as footsteps echoed where no one was. Whispers slithered from the shadows, and the oppressive silence of the valley pressed in on them. Every discovery pulled them further into the family's nightmare, and they realized that the deeper they explored, the closer they were to becoming part of the story themselves. Just as the investigators thought they were beginning to piece together the family's secrets, the shocking truth revealed itself. The baby with no records was not simply a child born in isolation. It was the culmination of decades of twisted inbreeding, genetic manipulation, and dark rituals meant to create the perfect heir. The journals hinted at strange experiments, where the family had attempted to control every aspect of growth, intelligence, and behavior, and the baby's unusual features were a terrifying success. But the real horror came when one investigator noticed something in the shadows. The baby was staring directly at them, eyes unnaturally alert, tracking every movement with an intelligence that seemed beyond its age. It was then that they realized the family's influence was not limited to the valley. Reports from nearby towns revealed that missing children over the years had been absorbed into the family, taught to move and behave in unison, like extensions of the patriarch's will. The investigators felt the walls themselves closing in. The house wasn't just a shelter. It was a living entity, feeding on the isolation, the fear, and the twisted legacy of the family. When they attempted to leave, the path out of the valley seemed to vanish. Trees shifted, mist thickened, and the forest's natural layout appeared altered, as if the land itself conspired to trap them. The ultimate shock was yet to come. The family emerged from hidden doorways, their presence overwhelming, not angry, but eerily calm, almost welcoming, as if they had anticipated the intrusion for generations. The baby crawled toward them, tiny hands reaching, and a low, almost hypnotic hum filled the air. At that moment, the investigators understood the depth of the nightmare. They weren't just witnesses. They were intruders into a meticulously crafted world of horror, and the baby, the family's roaning secret, was the key to everything. Escape would not be easy, and the longer they lingered, the more they realized the valley and its inhabitants had a power far beyond ordinary comprehension. Panic set in as the investigators realized the valley itself seemed to resist their escape. Paths they had carefully marked were gone, replaced by an unrecognizable tangle of trees, rocks, and fog. Every direction led them back toward the cabin, as if the land had become a maze designed to trap outsiders forever. The family moved silently among the shadows, their eyes glinting, watching, waiting. The baby, small, fragile in appearance yet unnervingly commanding, crawled ahead of them, seemingly guiding them deeper into the heart of the valley. Footsteps echoed behind, sometimes matching their pace exactly, though no one was visible. Fear gnawed at them, each second stretching into an eternity, as the forest seemed alive with whispers of warning. The investigators tried to call for help, but radios were dead, cell phones had no signal, and compasses spun wildly, betraying every attempt to navigate. One by one, they stumbled upon hidden traps, camouflaged pits, loose planks over underground tunnels, and rusted tools left in patterns meant to intimidate. Then came the realization. Leaving the valley alive might not be possible, not without confronting the family and their ultimate secret. Some tried to hide in the shadows, while others considered fighting their way through the undergrowth. But every attempt failed. Met with an unseen force, that manipulated the terrain itself. The baby's presence was central. Wherever it crawled, the forest obeyed. And in the moments when the investigators paused to catch their breath, they felt the silent, oppressive weight of generations watching, judging, and deciding their fate. They were trapped in a nightmare where escape was not just a matter of skill, but of surviving a family whose knowledge of isolation, control, and fear had been honed for decades. Every heartbeat reminded them that they were intruders in a world designed to consume outsiders, and that the baby, the child with no records, was the key to the valley's terrifying power. As night fell, the valley swallowed every trace of the investigators. Some would later claim they barely escaped, stumbling out at dawn with fragmented memories and a sense that the forest itself had been reshaping reality around them. Others vanished entirely, leaving behind nothing but eerie echoes of their cries and broken equipment. The family returned to their routines as if nothing had happened. The baby with no records crawling quietly through the cabin, eyes always alert, a silent witness and master of the valley's darkness. In the nearby towns, whispers continued. Children disappearing without a trace, strange shadows at cabin windows, and locals avoiding the valley at all costs. Law enforcement investigations were always inconclusive. No evidence could survive the valley's strange protective hold. Over generations, the family remained hidden, growing stronger in isolation, each new child, especially the recordless baby, cementing their control over the hollow. The valley itself became a legend, a place spoken of only in fearful tones, a chilling reminder of the horrors that can fester when humanity is cut off from society and morality. The baby, the most mysterious and terrifying member, became a symbol of the family's enduring secret, a life that should not exist, yet does, unseen and untouchable. And for those who have heard this story, a lingering question remains. What happens to those who enter the valley and confront this family's darkness? Some say the valley keeps them, teaching them that certain truths are too dangerous to ever uncover. Others claim that those who leave carry a part of the horror with them, a shadow that never fades. One thing is certain: West Virginia's darkest family secret, and the baby with no records, will continue to haunt the mountains, hidden from the world but alive in whispers, shadows, and the imagination of anyone who dares to listen.